So my name is Sebastian and I'm the co-founder of a company called HeyHack that was acquired by F5 exactly 1 year ago today. Today is February the 26th, so today, 1 year ago, the company was acquired. And now the product has changed its name to Web App Scanning. It's part of our web app and API protection portfolio. And so the idea with placing that product inside of that portfolio is that it helps position all of the other products that we've got in the portfolio. So often when we speak with customers, they do have issues when it comes to application security, but they might not be aware of which issues that they have. And it's pretty hard to position a web application firewall or layer 7 DDoS or bot defense to an organization that doesn't know that they need these solutions in the first place, right? And so that's why we added web app scanning to the mix to help visualize which apps do customers have out there and which security issues do these apps have. So there are two services within web app scanning. One is Recon. So you type in a domain name. So you can invite customers to say, hey, do you want a free assessment of everything that you've got sitting online? We can help you map out your external attack surface. And most customers, they say yes, it's a free service, and we provide value and insights to them, right? So why not say yes to that? And so you can invite them into that, have them, type in their domain name, and then we'll basically map out all these services that we can find across their corporate domain names. There's always a lot of there's a ton of interesting information there. Many apps that customers typically do not know that they had online, and that can spin up a conversation around application security in general, like what are their policies for publishing something online. Most modern organizations have very fast and hard-working marketing teams or application development teams or business innovation teams, and they just put stuff out there all the time, which is great. Like, we want to support that. Like, that's how they drive business and all of that, right? But obviously from a security perspective, that can create some issues. So using Recon to map out all these apps can help customers realize what's exposed, what does their attack surface look like, and we can then start building a strategy together with them. And that's where partners really come into play, because as F5 is ultimately a tool provider, we will provide these tools, but stitching everything together, helping the customers design that strategy is very much on our partners. So we rely on our partners for that. As a second step, we can then dive into some of the more critical applications. So as a part of Recon, or as a result of Recon, we might see that we've got a very interesting customer portal, or maybe some app that exposes some interesting data, and we want to make sure that that is obviously locked down the right way. And so we can then run our scan solution, which is our automated penetration testing solution that will basically run in, you'll navigate to the so it's a virtual machine that we spin up in the cloud fully automatically. The only thing you have to do is to provide the entry point for the app, so the URL that the scanner will then log into. And then typically, if there is a page where you can log in, we would need a test user, so username and a password. And then we would automatically log into the application and start crawling everything. So we'd click on links and buttons and input fields and all of that. And while we do that, we will try to attack bits and pieces of the application with the purpose of uncovering any security issues. And after that, you will have a really good assessment of where the customer is from an app security perspective, right? First of all, we'll map out all their apps, and we'll have a better idea of what kind of issues these apps expose. And that then much more naturally leads into a conversation around, hey, do we need to lock down these APIs that your apps might be using, right? So we maybe want to talk about API protection, or they might have, a bunch of different web front ends that we should lock down with a web application firewall. Or they might have a lot of forms that could be attacked by bots, so maybe we want to talk about bot defense, right? So, and again, this is we really rely on partners for that piece, because we, as I said before, we provide these tools, we provide the outputs, but the recommendations and setting up the strategy and working with the customer and understanding the business context of the customer is not something we do automatically from F5. That's where partners come in. But I think there's a huge opportunity for partners as well to build sort of a managed service on top of this, to provide access to these tools, but also have a layer on top where ultimately the value that the customer is going to get is that they're going to have more secure apps, and they will not have to worry about data breaches coming through their apps. That's the value we want to sell, right? And part of the solution are the tools that we can provide, but a huge part of it is also the layer that partners can add on top. And I think so there's there's an interesting business opportunity and a value-adding perspective for partners to fulfill in that chain, and yeah, that's what we want to strive towards.
How is App Scannin actually helping customers on their journey to AI?
Yeah, super good question. So we try to lean against standards in the industry. When we started building App Scannin, we very much designed it around the OWASP top 10, so the classical, traditional, list of threats to web applications, right? Last year, the OWASP released another list, the OWASP top 10 for LLM applications. We decided to extend the reach of App Scannin to also include that. So now there's an option if you come into App Scannin and you know that your web app embeds a large language model or some sort of an intelligent component, a chatbot or something like that, you can then go in and enable LLM discovery. That's step number one. So we can detect whether there is an LLM in the first place. And if you, then the second step is then to go ahead and test it. And so we rely on open source libraries from NVIDIA and Microsoft respectively. NVIDIA has a project called Grok, and Microsoft has something called Pirate. That's embedded into App Scannin, so you can run those test suites as part of the App Scannin. You don't have to configure anything else other than just ticking off a checkbox to run those as well. And that maps very nicely into, we have an AI gateway at F5 that you can put in front of your AI applications. And so all of the communication that takes place between the large language model itself and the consumer can be protected by that AI gateway. And so they'll play very nicely together to have App Scannin map out where your LLMs are, which issues they might expose, and then you can go ahead and deploy to the AI gateway to protect those applications.
Welcome to Appworld here in beautiful Las Vegas. We're having a blast here on the show floor. My name is Lauth, as he said. I'm the team lead for Enterprise AI Product Marketing, and this week we're really excited to announce the GA of AI Gateway, which is one of our first net new products across the whole portfolio. It's going to help with LLM security, which is really critical these days as businesses are starting to deploy LLMs in every aspect of their app infrastructure. Everything from chatbots to just new uses, novel uses of LLMs. But sometimes those LLMs, the outputs are non-deterministic. So sometimes those LLMs will say whatever they want, and you want to make sure you protect against that. So our AI Gateway inspects prompts as they come in, and also those outbound responses, and prevents those models from divulging things that you don't want to divulge, and really help companies protect against these new and novel uses of how LLMs are going to be deployed in their app ecosystem. So please stay tuned in for more. More is definitely coming, and really happy to be here with you, Dimi. Thank you.
So I'm Mike Waechter, Solutions Engineering Manager over in the Midwest. We started off with the application study tool in hopes that we would solve a major problem, pain point within the customer base. So that typically goes around visibility analytics. F5 sits right in the middle of the data path, and all customers, almost every single customer, has wanted the need for visibility, data that goes in and out of the big IP. So our ability to actually go in, provide those analytics, is a really key feature of the application study tool. In addition to that, being able to look at heuristics and being able to look at data within that tool itself, so that you can come out with a business outcome, going from CPU utilization on a per application basis, node pool memberships going up and down, traffic in and out of the big IP. That's just a really cool feature and function, and I think customers are really going to like it. Some of the features, actually, believe it or not only are for customers, but also for partners, because they are an advocate of the customer, right? So they're trying to help the customer whenever they can. And through the application study tool, you get a full visual of the environment for every customer. What versions are you running on the big IP? So when we come out with quarterly security notifications, how is that applicable within your environment? Do these CVEs, or do they impact your F5 data centers and wherever they might be at? So we're able to catalog that information, provide that feedback to you. So I think it's really key and crucial that partners, customers get a hold of the tool, install it, get it up and running, and you'll see many, many use cases going forward. The office of the CTO team, specifically, they took a look at the landscape and said they wanted to build the best of the best. And so that means the best of the open source tooling that's around. So we use open source tooling. It's all containers, so that it runs in Docker, Kubernetes, Podman. But overall, I think using the best of the best and using open source tooling, it's very flexible, very extendable. So I think that's really a key part of it.
So I'm John Gruber, I'm an architect with F5. Our distributed cloud offering is for you to have an API approach to providing data centers around the world and do multi-cloud and connect it where you want it. Okay, so that's you depending upon other cloud infrastructures. If you're running the cloud infrastructure yourself inside of your data center, the way that you would connect that to XE is you have a customer edge cluster. We build those in virtual machines. Inside those virtual machines, you can even schedule your own Kubernetes jobs. We call that App Stack on the inside. But how would you integrate an NVIDIA GPU cluster following the NVIDIA reference architecture because you want to do training or inferencing in a very specific way to AI? So all of a sudden, you find yourself in a boat where you have this network services ADC multi-cloud network that can deliver traffic, but you find yourself now with these big fat data fabrics that aren't multi-cloud kind of WAN connectivity. They're big fat data fabrics, and you have to follow the reference architecture to get that done. How do you do that last mile ADC? That's what Big IP Next for Kubernetes is about. And we're working with NVIDIA to say we do it at this speed with this latency to get that all done. Now, how do you tie the two together? There's no problem whatsoever having the ingress VIPs that we do in Big IP Next for Kubernetes be an endpoint to an XE L7 load balancer with WAP on it. So you could just even do TCP, and it's actually an L3.5 cut through the virtual router all the way through your little virtual MPLS cloud over to where you're going. So you can tie them together by using XE as the same multi-cloud distributed network with app delivery features to the AI cloud VIPs. Okay. And you need to do that because inside the data center, you're not going, you have an edge. That CLOS edge at the top of the reference architecture, that's where Big IP belongs. And again, in the class we talked about it, Big IP is an infrastructure integration. Our Nginx product is an application level thing that ties down through the typical Linux kernel. XE is a routed cloud infrastructure. They all tie together in various places, but each does an independent job. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, that's what we do. Really what we're sitting there saying is anytime you find yourself with complex Kubernetes that require jobs that need interesting network integration done. Yeah. Big IP is an infrastructure integration, always has been. Even on our virtual editions, we still tie them down to specific V2s or L2 networks. So that's an infrastructure integration when you tie to an L2, right? Right. So put the right pieces to do the right job, put them together. XE does a good job of multi-cloud delivery. Big IP does a good job of infrastructure to specific jobs that need that level of integration. Nginx, make it part of your app deployment. It gives you that level of control over traffic in the app.